Thomas Tuchel's latest England squad. Woo, it's cooking. It's cooking. There's some big additions. There's some big omissions as well, though, isn't there? Today, though, I'm going to be looking at who might start at the World Cup. Who would I start in my 11 for England at the World Cup in 2026? I'm on the JLA tactics board here. If you haven't already got it, by the way, you can click the link in the description. I've kind of laid out most of the players. I've probably forgotten a few, but the big talking points are definitely in here. Let's start with the goalkeeper, shall we? Because I think it is Henderson versus Pickford now. It's a straight shootout. Nick Pope's having an alright season, but clearly these two are the outstanding English keepers right now. As for Dean Henderson, 5 clean sheets, the best save percentage of any Premier League keeper, the best post-shot expected goal number of any Premier League goalkeeper. He's having an outstanding campaign. It's slipping under the radar just how good Dean Henderson is and how influential he is at Crystal Palace. He's a huge leader. He's a huge personality. But Jordan Pickford, for me, still never put a foot wrong. Still the best England goalkeeper I've ever seen in my lifetime. I think there have been higher quality keepers across that time. But in terms of what he's actually done whilst wearing an England shirt, I don't think anybody even comes close. He never makes a mistake. I think he's having another really strong campaign at Everton. Sometimes you've really got to think about experience and leadership. Players that have been there at major international tournaments before. Pickford's got 80 caps for England. That cannot be overlooked. He has to be the number one. Let's go to right back, where at the start of the season, I think you would have said this is going to be a real battle. This is a really open slot. You've got Jed Spence, who can potentially play there. You've got Trent, who can play there. Reece James, that can play there. Tino can play there. Trent's start to life at Real Madrid has been pretty tumultuous. Just 2 La Liga starts. Dropped consistently from the team. He's had injury problems. I don't think Xabi Alonso fully trusts him yet. That's why you've seen Fede Valverde used in that role, especially in games like at Anfield in the Champions League. Obviously a huge pressure environment. He opted for Valverde over the natural Alexander-Arnold. Whereas Reece James, I think he's playing the best football of his career right now. I think Enzo Maresca has found a really nice home for him as a hybrid defensive midfielder and right back. I interviewed Enzo Maresca last week and he gave a really interesting answer when I talked about Reece James. What's changed from his injury record? Why does he look so much fitter now? He said that he's actually asking him to do a lot less physically. He's not asking him to burst up the touchline and cover big distances. The key to keeping Reece James fit, in the words of Enzo Maresca, was working him in short distances. And that's what he believes he's doing in that midfield role. As soon as you ask him to get up and down 80 yards, that's where hamstrings start to pop. Whereas if you can keep him tight, compact in midfield, use his physicality to the best of his extent, he's less likely to be injured. So fingers crossed, we keep him at full fitness for the World Cup. Because so far this season, 3 goal involvements in 7 games. He's in the top 5% of fullbacks for his progressive passes, progressive carries, his chance created. He's in the top 1% of fullbacks for his interceptions. Now, those numbers are skewed slightly because he's been operating in midfield as well. So he's on the ball constantly. I think, though, this is the best we've seen Reece James look from a robustness point of view, from a pressing point of view. Amazing performance against Tottenham, where he single-handedly dominated players like Xavi Simons. They couldn't get past him, boshing them off the ball, carrying the ball through spaces, super aggressive in the tackle. He's worked with Thomas Tuchel before. I think he's an outstanding player. One of the first names on the team sheet at the moment for me. The centre-backs are quite difficult. Now, Chalobah has been called into the England squad because Gahey's picked up that foot injury. He's got a bruised bone. He's walking on crutches at the moment, so he's not part of this squad. But I don't see him right now being a contender for these roles. There is always the option to take 6 centre-backs. Do I think we need to take 6 centre-backs? Not particularly. Let's start with the right-sided centre-back options, where I think there's a pretty obvious battle going on between Esri Konsa and John Stones, and it's a really tough battle. You've got the experience of John Stones. This is a player who's got 85 England caps, 27 of them coming at major international tournaments. So solid on the ball, a leader amongst the dressing room. He's more composed on the ball than Konsa, and he can definitely step into midfield a lot better than Konsa. But what I really think about Konsa is he's an outstanding defender in 1v1 situations. He is a brilliant channel coverer. When Reece James wants to make runs up and down this touchline or come into this space here, Konsa's ability to push back into that final third offers a lot to England. He's got the best ground duel win rate of any of England's centre-backs. He's the most natural physical talent I think England have got in terms of his speed, his jump, his power. But it doesn't stop there. This is a player who's completing 94.1% of his passes so far this season. It's actually the highest pass completion rate of any Premier League player, not just centre-backs, of any Premier League player. He's been outrageous for Aston Villa. For sure, a future Aston Villa captain. And for me right now, I would start him at centre-back. John Stones, huge presence, huge leader, but he started just 4 league games. There are still question marks over his physicality. I just love the partnership between Konsa and Gehi that I've seen so far in an England shirt. Their physicality at an international level is so dominant. Both aerially, on the ground, Konsa is just eating people alive in 1v1 situations, and it allows players like Reece James, like our midfielders, to get much higher up the pitch because you can rely on Konsa to cover the space in behind. A little bit akin to when we had Kyle Walker back there. On the other side, Gehi for me is the nailed-on starter. He was England's outstanding player at the Euros. Dan Burton is having a little bit of a struggle recently, but mainly because he's been playing this left-back role for Newcastle, and I don't totally think it suits his game. He doesn't have that natural burst of pace, and I think he's going to struggle too at centre-back, potentially, given the form of Sven Botman and Malik Chow. Where is the space for Dan Burn now that Lewis Hall is back? Tino Livramento is about to come back. He might face an uphill battle for minutes across the second half of the season. I certainly think that's where Newcastle fans stand on it. Harry Maguire is another big question mark. Do you take a player who has 64 England caps? Huge volume of them coming at major international tournaments as well. A huge scorer of goals in clutch moments. So Maguire is a potential candidate to go, but this would be my starting pairing. I like the balance. I like the physicality. I like the on-the-ball ability. Mark Gehi, just all-round amazing mentality. Missing out on that move to Liverpool, still starting 10 of 11 games for Crystal Palace. Still making over 2 tackles per 90. A brilliant reader of the game, very calm and composed. His ability to play in multiple central defensive positions helps us as well, so he's one of the first names on the team sheet. Left back is a real dogfight right now. It's a real dogfight. Lewis Skelly not included in this squad because he's not getting enough minutes, in the words of Thomas Tuchel. That's a bit of a hammer blow for him. He's an outrageously talented player, and maybe Arsenal fans will see that as a little bit harsh. You know, Calafiori has been the outstanding left back in the Premier League so far this campaign, but Nico O'Reilly is right up there. His numbers, his data. Don't look at Nico O'Reilly's underlying data because it is scary for a player that's 20 years old. I think the fact that he's naturally a number 10 and central midfielder means he's so calm and composed on possession, under pressure in that left-back slot. It adds a whole different variety to Pep's game. And he could potentially carry that on to England as well. I like his frame. He's very tall. He's aggressive in the tackles. I thought he dealt so well with Mo Salah. He was kind of swatting Mo Salah away at times physically. And that's kind of resulted in him already playing 1,000 minutes. He started 8 Premier League games this season. It looks like he's going to be Man City's starting left back. Even though Aït-Nouri has been out injured, still to come back. Is he going to be a starter over Nico O'Reilly, who has not yet put a foot wrong? Now, on the other hand, you've got Miles Lewis-Skelly, who's put up 800 minutes. I think O'Reilly's put up about 1,000 minutes. 2 Champions League starts to 3 Champions League starts, but he hasn't yet started a Premier League game, Lewis-Skelly. He's the outstanding talent of this bunch, I think, and that is saying something because there's some amazingly talented players here. But if he's not going to play across the course of this season, I don't see a world in which Thomas Tuchel picks him, and that is really harsh. I'm struggling with this left-back slot. Who would you start a left-back for England at the World Cup? I mean, we haven't even touched on the Newcastle boys. Hall and Livramento both look like they're about to be back fit. We saw Hall come on at the weekend, immediately added loads of dynamism, loads of attacking threat we didn't see from Dan Burn on that left-hand side. He must be a starter for Eddie Howe going forward. I can't imagine that he is not going to be a starter. Is Tino Livramento going to play it right back then? That'll probably happen, and if that occurs, Tino versus Reece James. I think James wins it, but Livramento goes because he's so dynamic and can play on both sides. It's kind of a battle between Tino Livramento and Jed Spence across the second half of this campaign. Who is going to emerge as the better two-sided fullback? Both of them can do it. I think Jed Spence is maybe a better 1v1 defender. Tino offers a lot more going forward. It's definitely an asset Spence needs to add to his game. I imagine that maybe both of them go, neither of them start. Miles has probably proven, hasn't he, across the last 18 months. He's the outstanding talent in the bunch. I thought he struggled a little bit at the last international break. Nico O'Reilly, an unproven prospect. And Lewis Hall might be my favourite out of the bunch as a left back, as a natural left back. All of these guys have midfield qualities. Skelly is operated heavily in midfield in the academy system. So is O'Reilly. So did Lewis Hall at Chelsea. People seem to forget. I think right now, from what I've seen this season, I would start Nico O'Reilly, which is so wild to say. But his emergence has been akin to Miles Lewis-Skelly last season. When Miles broke through, everybody was like, what are we watching here? I feel very similar about Nico O'Reilly this season. So if Miles can get back up to his best, he goes in there. But right now, it's O'Reilly's shirt to lose. The number 6 is a battle between two players for me. It's Elliot Anderson versus Adam Wharton. Elliot Anderson has been outstanding for England since coming into the fold. He's formed an amazing partnership with Declan Rice. He's won man of the match in both of his first 2 starts. He looks so natural in that role. And the numbers this season, they've been really scary. Obviously, both of these players, totally elite talents. Adam Wharton, I think, is more silky, more refined, more Spanish in his playing style. But that's not to say Elliot Anderson doesn't have those things. You know, he's putting up more passes per 90. He's putting up more progressive passes per 90. More tackles, more interceptions per 90. I think he's more combative than Adam Wharton. Nearly double the amount of tackles per 90 than Wharton puts up. But Wharton's ability to create chances, subtle passes, little pieces of skill is much higher than Anderson. And I can see people's arguments as to why Wharton's ceiling is higher. People saying, you know, he's going to end up going to Madrid. He's a Spanish-style player. The thing I do like about Elliot Anderson, though, is I really like his off-the-ball tenacity. I like his positioning. I like the way he works with Declan Rice. Those two have formed an amazing partnership. It seems instinctive. They know where each other is on the pitch. He's allowed Declan Rice to flow more further forward. This feels a little bit like the left-back slot. Both of them totally good enough to play this role, and it's a real battle between the pair. But right now, it's Elliot Anderson's shirt to lose. People will be screaming at home. They will be starting Wharton. I know he is the flavour of the month. Everybody loves him, and I absolutely love Wharton. I think he's one of the outstanding defensive midfield talents in world football. But so is Elliot Anderson. Nobody's putting up more line-breaking passes than Elliot Anderson per 90 in the Premier League. His defensive output is huge, and he's doing it for a really poor Nottingham Forest side at the start of the campaign, and he's doing it for England. Sometimes players step up and perform even better in a Three Lions kit. It's just the case, and some people don't, and Elliot Anderson is. Alongside him is definitely going to be Declan Rice. It's a double pivot on paper, but when you actually watch England, it's not. Declan Rice is operating in this sort of space. He's very, very high up the pitch, and that's because of the connection with Elliot Anderson, who's allowing him to do that by pinning teams in with his excellent passing and distribution numbers. Jordan Henderson and Curtis Jones in a bit of a battle, maybe? Across the second half of this season to go. It's definitely Jordan Henderson's shirt to lose right now. He's been involved in a lot of England squads. He's got massive amount of caps, massive amount of experience, and adds a huge amount to the group from a leadership point of view. Curtis Jones having an underrated season at Liverpool. There's clamour for him to start consistently in a red shirt, given the numbers he's able to put forward, his passing ability, his composure on the ball. But it's going to be Jordan Henderson. Unless something desperately difficult happens, I don't see a world in which Henderson doesn't go. Now we move into the number 10 space. You could have Morgan Gibbs-White in here as well. It's 4 or 5 players battling for one spot. And it's the most difficult position to pick from on the pitch. I've seen loads of people say this is how they would start. They would drop Anderson out. They'd have Rice. They'd have Bellingham. And they'd have Foden like that. No. Can we please stop it? Stop it. Just stop it. Rice is not a defensive midfielder. He hasn't played as a defensive midfielder for 2 seasons. I cannot stand the idea of forcing stars into the team just so we can get the biggest names on the pitch at the same time. We need balance. The way we get balance is by using Rice and Anderson in the midfield, or Rice and Wharton in the midfield. You've got to have somebody who offsets these stars in forward areas. Not all of the biggest names can start, and it's fine. That is fine. Somebody has to hold the bench. 2 world-class players at least are going to have to hold the bench for England. Get over it. But who are those 2 players? Well, so far under Tuchel, we've seen Rodgers used in this role, right? We haven't seen Palmer a lot under Tuchel because of his injury. We haven't seen Foden barely at all under Tuchel. Bellingham hasn't been part of the last 2 squads. Eze has come off the bench. So is Rodgers the guy who starts? Well, is his shirt to lose? Nobody in the Premier League since the start of last season, other than Mo Salah actually, has put up more open play assists than Morgan Rodgers. He's an outstanding talent, an amazing ball carrier. But is he Jude Bellingham? Is he Phil Foden? If those 2 are at their best, you know, Jude looks like he's coming back to his best. Phil Foden is absolutely flying at the moment. Cole Palmer, still out with that groin problem. We haven't seen him this campaign, really. But when he's back to his best, Is he the most outstanding? This is the most difficult position to pick from. How Thomas Tuchel lands on this decision could define whether or not England win the World Cup. Let's start with Phil Foden. I think he's having an amazing season, an underrated season. 7 goal involvements. He's creating a huge volume of chances. 5 chances per 90. He's in the top 1% of European attacking midfielders. He's floating around a pitch again. His combinations with Cherki, with Haaland, with Doku. But we're yet to see that translate to an England shirt. I've seen Phil Foden at his absolute best, winning awards, winning titles, winning trebles, not able to translate that to an England shirt. And I think that is something Thomas Tuchel is definitely doing differently to previous England managers. He's not picking on names, he's not picking on reputations, he's picking on team balance. And we've heard Thomas Tuchel in his press conference say he doesn't see Foden as a winger. In fact, he sees him potentially as a false 9. We might well see him as a false 9 in some of these warm-up games. However, I see him potentially coming off the bench and having big impacts. And I also see Cole Palmer potentially coming off the bench and having big impacts. For me, I would start Jude in there. Morgan Rogers, really unlucky. I think he's a super talented player. He's going to have a big England career and he will go. But is he Jude Bellingham? Jude Bellingham for me is our outstanding talent. He's the best individual player we've got in this team other than Harry Kane. And people have their own opinions on that. People might say that Palmer's a higher level of individual talent, or Foden is. But what I've seen from Bellingham in an England shirt, in a Dortmund shirt, in a Real Madrid shirt, signals to me he can do it in multiple systems, multiple teams, multiple different phases of the game. I've seen him bail England out in clutch moments, score huge goals at international tournaments. And I just like his tenacity. That's, I think, the main reason I would start him for England. Is he brings a level of intensity to the midfield some of these other players don't in their off-the-ball work. He's such a battler that it spreads through the team. Bellingham, Anderson, Rice is a super combative midfield. You are looking at a midfield that wants to get involved in tackles. They want to be in your face, intense at every moment. And Thomas Tuchel has spoken about trying to take that Premier League intensity to the international stage. How can he build a team that is physical, that is intense, that is in your face? You look at how well Premier League sides are doing in Europe this season. A large proportion of that is down to the physicality and the intensity. And I think these three match that. Bellingham, for me, would start in the 10. On the right, Bukayo Saka is the clear starter here. I think Jarrod Bowen's having another good season at West Ham, who have been crap. He drags them through games. He's an individual genius for them. He's probably going to go down as a club legend, but he is not Bukayo Saka. Neither is Noni Madueke. Now, Noni Madueke, for England, under Thomas Tuchel, has looked a revelation. He has looked a huge find and will go to the World Cup. Such a shame he picked up his injury when he did, because he was tearing teams apart in that Saka role. However, Saka still has that extra level of effectiveness. He has that set-piece delivery. In 1v1 situations with Bukayo Saka, you have to double up on him. And if teams double up on Bukayo Saka, it leaves space for the likes of Bellingham, for Kane, for a Rashford, a Grealish or a Gordon. So Bukayo Saka is the starting player out on that right-hand side. He offers balance, he offers defensive cover. That right-hand side, Saka and Reece James, physical, high-level technicians, both working extremely hard defensively. The balance is fantastic there. As you can tell, I'm really trying to build out a very physical team here. It's a team that want to dominate the game. The back line is, it's intimidating. Konsa, Gahey, James, O'Reilly, physical, tall presences, all excellent on the ball. The midfield three, right in your face, aggression. Saka, the exact same. So who can provide that on the left? Well, I think Rashford, for me, is not that type of player. He's a player who wants to run in behind, he wants to be on the ball, an excellent shooter from distance. He's put up really good numbers at Barcelona. 5 goal involvements in the Champions League, 8 goal involvements in La Liga. But do those goal involvements continue when Rafinha comes back? How is Hansi Flick going to balance that? We haven't seen Rafinha since the end of September, and that's allowed Rashford to get a lot of minutes. But when Rafinha is back, does he start again? Is it Rafinha, Lewandowski, Yamal again? Rashford coming off the bench as an impact? And how does that impact his minutes across the second half of the season? That'll be a big question for Thomas Tuchel. But again, I want in-your-face physical intensity. Is that Rashford? I'm not too sure it is. The reason I wouldn't start Rashford as well is I like him coming off the bench. I like Marcus Rashford as an impact player that can cause huge problems with his pace and power against tiring defences. So that leaves Grealish versus Gordon. Now, Grealish has been the sort of outstanding chance creator from wide in the Premier League at the start of this campaign. He's been amazing at it. He's top 1% for expected assists, for shot creating actions, for progressive passes received. He takes the ball in amazing areas. He's an incredible dribbler and a huge chance creator. But again, intensity, aggression, in your face physicality. I think I would start Gordon, and then I would love a player like Grealish coming off the bench in impact situations. People at home will be saying, how can you start Antony Gordon in the form he's in? And he is badly out of form. In the Champions League, though, he's not. I think 5 goal involvements from the Champions League as well against teams that aren't quite as physical, and you've seen him explode at that level. But in the Premier League, he hasn't scored a goal in his last 21 Premier League games. He's also got no assists in his last 19 Premier League games. The last time he actually scored a Premier League goal was in January. 3-0 win against Wolves at home. I couldn't believe that when I read that statistic. I mean, if you rewind the clock all the way back to the start of last season, since August 2024, 6 league goals. Only 2 of them have come away from St James's Park, which is a total cauldron as well. So the form, it's a real worry for me. But in an England shirt, I haven't been worried. I think he's looked great every time I've watched him in an England shirt. His ability to sort of make that run in behind there, stretch teams down the line, means that England can have more players that want the ball to feet. Saka kind of wants the ball in here to feet. Kane often wants the ball in here to feet. Bellingham's going to want the ball in here to feet. You have to have a player who's willing to bend a run or get in behind and utilise long balls from Reece James, utilise long balls from Anderson and Rice to do that. Without Gordon or Rashford, England don't have enough stretchers in the team. So for now, I'm tentatively starting Antony Gordon, but this left wing slot is a problem that needs resolving. If he continues to decline in form and Rashford suddenly gets back to his best, starts every game over Rafinha in the second half of the season, is flying again, he may well start in this role and Gordon drops out. But I just prefer Rashford coming off the bench as the impact sub. Kane versus Watkins is obviously becoming a bit of a non-battle there. It's Kane. There were people at the Euros, weren't there, that saying Watkins should be starting? No, it's clearly Kane. He's maybe the best player in the world at the moment. Everything he provides to the team is positive. His goal scoring, his ability to drop deep. I think what you will see for England, and one of the reasons I think Bellingham will start in that 10, is that at times Kane will drop in here and you'll see Bellingham box crashing. Kane will drop in here, fire balls out wide into these channels for Bukayo Saka. He'll whip it in and you'll see Bellingham box crashing and Kane really deep. And when that happens, I won't have a problem. Because Kane naturally wants to float around the pitch, naturally wants to pick up the ball in deep areas like this. To do that, you've got to have players who want to run beyond the lines. Gordon, Saka, Bellingham are going to do that for you. So as things stand, that would be my starting 11. Today, if you ask me, first game of the World Cup, what would be a starting 11? It'd be that. I think the biggest debates are in the left-back slot, the left-wing slot, and the number 10 slot. I don't really see loads of other debate. People will have John Stones starting over Ezri Konsa, but I want to hear your 11 in the comments below. Who should start for England under Tuchel at the World Cup in 2026? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, hit subscribe. I'll see you later. Goodbye.